Members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, all viewing via Facebook and other social media, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this Central Committee meeting of Parliament. This is Central Committee meeting number 7. I would like to give a special welcome at this time to the Ombudsman, Mrs. Gwendolyn Mussel, and her staff, Ms. Cecilia. We have established a quorum of 4 factions, so I invite you to stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have received several notices from members of Parliament, amongst which notice of absence from the members Kotai, Lacruz, and De Weaver, and notice of lateness from the members Peterson and Roseburg. Members of Parliament, is there any need for notifications at this time? That does not appear to be the case, so we can continue with the agenda point for today. And the agenda point for this meeting is the Annual Report 2024 of the Ombudsman of St. Martin. We received a letter registered as IS 1267, dated July 29, 2025, which included the Annual Report 2024 from the Ombudsman. The Ombudsman is here today to give a presentation and, if necessary, any further elucidation on the annual report. So at this time, I give the floor to the Ombudsman, Ms. Mussel, for her opening remarks and a presentation on the report. Ms. Mussel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of Parliament, Madam Chair, Griffier, and everyone tuned in. First of all, I would like to thank the members of Parliament and by extension the people of St. Martin for reappointing me as Ombudsman of St. Martin for another term in accordance with Article 2 of the National Ordinance Ombudsman. Thank you for your trust in me to continue to assist you, Parliament, in your supervisory role over government. My team and I, we will continue to work with dedication and integrity to ensure that the voice and the perspective of the people are heard and integrated into the actions and policies of government. I also want to take this opportunity, Madam Chair, to publicly thank Mr. Randolph Doggins, who served as Secretary General for the past 10 years, for his infallible contribution to the institution of the Ombudsman and also to me personally. And we wish him much success and fulfillment in his new role as member of the Council of State of the Kingdom of St. Martin. Thank you. Our format for the presentation of our year report will be, I will give the general overview and concerns, and the legal advisor, Ms. Isira Cecilia, will give the statistics on the complaints that were handled, and they'll close with the financial report and the future of the institution. The year 2024 was yet another period marked by political instability for our young nation, having undergone 2 parliamentary elections, first in February and again in August. This instability had tangible consequences for the work of the Ombudsman. Notably, the number of complaints filed significantly, with nearly 100 fewer submissions compared to 2023. The decline reflects a broader public reluctance to engage during times of governmental uncertainty. Many citizens hesitate to file complaints on the interim governments, preferring instead to wait for a fully formed administration. The political composition of the new government plays a role in their decision forward. Such period stability not only reduce new complaints, but also affect ongoing investigations. While government operations are expected to continue uninterrupted, responses to Ombudsman's inquiries and requests often slow down or cease altogether, particularly within ministries that have historically been unresponsive. In these cases, files were placed on hold rather than closed in the hope that answers or solutions would eventually be forthcoming. This reality is particularly evident within the Ministry of Romi, which has consistently recorded the highest number of complaints from all ministries since 2019. Unfortunately, many of these cases with final reports lacking substantive responses from the ministry. Complaints represent more than just documents. They are real individuals facing genuine issues and concerns. Failing to respond constitutes a disservice to the public. The Ombudsman observes that these nuances do not stem solely from administrative unwillingness. Rather, they often highlight an impotence rooted in lack of resources. All ministries are grappling with insufficient human and financial capital, but the effects are particularly pronounced within the Ministry of Romi. While these challenges are formidable, they also serve as a call to action for the government to reassess its commitment to serving the citizens of St. Martin more effectively. It is crucial that steps are taken to address the underlying issues, improve the responsiveness of the administration. Special attention must be given to effective communication with the general public and the need to take action once violations are identified. Communication with the ministry has improved after several meetings held in 2024 and also this year. And the Ombudsman is looking forward to receiving responses from the various departments, especially with the recent appointment of a new complaint liaison. Since 2022, the Ombudsman has requested Parliament to ensure that government, particularly the Ministry of Romi, establish a clear policy for the allocation of domain land in accordance with the principles outlined in the Didam arrest. However, no comprehensive policy has been implemented to date, and the Ombudsman continues to receive complaints and inquiries about the issuing of government land. It is therefore essential that government adopt such a policy without delay in line with good governance. The Ombudsman once again calls on Parliament to address this matter urgently, as it remains of great public interest. In the meantime, the ministry is encouraged to issue a standard letter to affected persons and those requesting the land, explaining the impact of the Didam arrest, the Didam verdict, and the current status of the new policy. Ministry of Justice, the Ombudsman remains concerned about the ongoing backlog and lengthy processing times for residence permit applications and decisions on objections. Some cases surpass a year. The Ombudsman further emphasizes the need for the police force of St. Martin, KPSM, to have a clear and transparent complaint procedure to ensure fairness, objectivity, and accountability. Currently, KPSM's complaint procedures are unclear to both the public and even to KPSM staff members. Citizens often face difficulty navigating the process, and the newly established Complaints Handling Committee appears to be non-operational. The Ombudsman has also noted that KPSM's online complaints handling system has remained inactive. The Ombudsman therefore urges that these matters receive urgent attention. The Ombudsman does acknowledge the efforts of the police force of St. Martin, KPSM, to respond to complaints of the Ombudsman in a timely manner, with some cases resolved during the intervention stage. I would like to highlight a case of an inmate at the House of Detention who received a court verdict in 2023 ordering his transfer to the Justitiële Inrichting Caribisch Nederland in Bonaire for necessary treatment. Despite repeated efforts to have the case prioritized, the minister failed to execute the verdict for more than 2 years. This delay violated the inmate's fundamental rights. The Ombudsman, therefore, urged the minister to take immediate action to comply with the court's decision in the interest of the individual's health, well-being, and legal rights. The Ombudsman is pleased to report that the inmate has now been transferred to Bonaire in accordance with the verdict. However, concern remains that it requires the Ombudsman intervention and an excessive delay to achieve compliance. Legal certainty is a core principle of good governance. It requires government to promptly comply with court decisions on its own initiative. Organizational or administrative issues cannot be used as an excuse for non-compliance. In 2024, no laws were submitted for review to the Constitutional Court. However, the court mourned the passing of its president in January 2024 after a period of illness. Judge Witt's contributions to the judiciary and his dedication to justice will be remembered as a guiding light for future generations. In the meantime, the composition of the members of the court remained unattended. As it stands, the position of the President of the Constitutional Court remains vacant and urgently requires an appointment pursuant to Article 128 of the Constitution of St. Martin, as well as a substitute member on recommendation of the Council of State and a court recorder pursuant to Article 15 of the National Ordinance Constitutional Court. Considering that the Ombudsman is tasked with presenting a law to the Constitutional Court, I have requested the Minister of Justice to address these matters as soon as possible to avoid any delay in procedures when required. With this, I end with the general part. And Madam Chair, I would like to pass over the mic to the legal advisor who will be giving more information on the complaint statistics.
Thank you, Ms. Mussel, for those introductory remarks and comments regarding the annual report. And I now turn the floor over to Ms. Cecilia for her contribution to the annual report of the Ombudsman. Ms. Cecilia?
Madam Chair, members of Parliament, the clerk, and to all tuned in, good morning. Complaint statistics. In 2024, the Ombudsman handled a total of 270 complaints. 228 were addressed through the information window. These are considered general complaints. And 42 cases proceeded to further investigation, which have or will lead to a report by the Ombudsman. So general complaints or information windows may involve providing information, referring complainants to the relevant institution, or mediating complaints. These general complaints do not lead to a formal report. The time that is spent on IWs, so that's what we call them, varies depending on the nature of the complaint. For example, the complaints regarding unlawful pop-up garages took months to resolve and ultimately led to the Ombudsman adopting an interministerial approach in an effort to get the ministries to discuss the challenges and solutions together. Of the 228 IW complaints, the majority concerned SZV, those were 15, the police department, 13, tax office and receivers, 13, and then the school boards, GB, and labor office, 12 each. These IWs gives a snapshot of the everyday questions, concerns, and challenges the public is having with our institutions. I now move over to the investigative reports, so those complaints that have led to further investigation by the Ombudsman, broken down per ministry. A total of 42 complaints warranted further investigation. 37 involved the ministries, while the semi-public entities totaled 5. Vromi and Justice with 9 complaints each. VSA, General Affairs and Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, and TIAT with 4 each, followed by Finance with 3. On a positive note, all investigations concerning the Ministries of Finance and TIAT were resolved at the intervention stage, that is at the early stage of the investigation. As for the semi-public entities, together they amounted 5 further investigations. These were St. Martin Housing Development Foundation with 2, APS, Port of St. Martin, and Cadastre, each with 1. I now move over to additional concerns to the ones the Ombudsman already addressed in her opening remarks. The Ombudsman wishes to highlight the following concerns, and this is for all ministries. The Ombudsman acknowledges that to a certain extent, the lack of progress in certain areas may be attributed to inherent systemic challenges such as limited capacity, financial constraints, and other operational realities. It is for this reason that the Ombudsman urges all government entities to review and adapt their policies and procedures to current realities, while ensuring alignment with the core objective of their respective government service. I will elucidate with an example based on an actual IW case of how the current medical and financial aid application process functions in practice. A person seeking financial or medical aid collects all the required supporting documents at home, completes the application form, and visits the Department of Social Affairs on, let's say, February 1st, 2025, to submit the application. Although the documents are in order, the individual is given an appointment 3 months later, on May 1st, 2025, to formally submit the application. Then, of course, the minister has to make a decision. Let's say the decision is rendered on the 15th of June, 2025. Once the decision is rendered, it is then given retroactivity to the 1st of May, 2025. So the person is ready to apply by the 1st of February, and the decision goes in back to on the 1st of May, 2 months later. What happens if this individual suffers a medical emergency on March 1st? This is an actual case where a senior citizen now has a substantial hospital bill while the AOV and financial aid can barely cover their current living expenses. While this process was reportedly adjusted to address staffing limitations and growing demand for social assistance, it nonetheless defeats the purpose of timely aid, especially for those in urgent need. During this period, the applicant would be left without support for medical expenses, despite having been ready to apply months earlier. This example highlights the need for policy adjustments that balance administrative constraints without losing sight of the objective, in this example, the fundamental principle of timely assistance to those in need. is a call to action from the Ombudsman to the ministers for policy departments to look at the full context and balance the administrative constraints without losing sight of their mandate. Another concern is that of the Ministry of General Affairs. The Ombudsman expresses serious concern regarding the handling of civil servants' legal status by the Department of P&O and the nature of its working relationship with the ministries. P&O bears the responsibility of ensuring that the legal status of civil servants is both properly established and safeguarded, thereby enabling them to perform their duties effectively and uphold the functioning of government. In this reporting year of 2024, the Ombudsman addressed seven HR-related cases spanning multiple ministries. To date, concerns about the management and resolution of civil servants' cases remain unresolved. The Ombudsman has therefore urged the Minister of General Affairs and the Department of P&O to conduct a critical review of their policies, procedures, and staffing capacity, and to adopt effective measures that would allow for more timely and efficient handling of civil servants' matters. It is unacceptable that the very individuals who form the backbone of government operations continue to find themselves in prolonged uncertainty regarding their own legal position. Moreover, while P&O serves a supportive and advisory role to the ministries, it is essential that ministries themselves assume and exercise their decisive authority in HR-related matters. The Ombudsman therefore calls for enhanced cooperation and coordination between P&O and the ministries to ensure that civil servants are treated fairly, their legal status safeguarded, and the integrity of public administration is maintained. And as moving on to the Ministry of Finance, the Tax Administration Receiver's Office continues to face challenges related to its IT systems and staffing capacity. Nonetheless, the establishment and consistent implementation of a clear and fair enforcement policy would significantly contribute to enhancing legal certainty and public confidence. So, recognizing the challenges that government bodies face in drafting and enforcing policy, the Ombudsman, in collaboration with the Council of Advice and the General Audit Chamber, initiated a 3-day symposium entitled Sound Policy and Legislation last year in 2024. This initiative underscores the Ombudsman's commitment to not only identify and highlight shortcomings within government operations, but also to provide practical tools and foster dialogue aimed at improving the quality and effectiveness of public service. Now move on to closed cases. In 2024, a total of 48 cases were closed. These consist of 25 cases closed in 2024, of 2024 themselves, and 23 cases that were a bit older. At the end of 2024, 28 cases remain opened. Violated standards of propriety. The Ombudsman assesses government conduct based on standards of proper conduct. In 2024, the most frequently violated standards were adequate organization of services, 22, promptness, 18, and active and adequate information provision. These violated standards reflect exactly what the Ombudsman has been saying, rather that adequate organization of services shows that the setup of the government organization does not meet the demand, cannot adequately address their mandate. Promptness is how fast we are able to respond, our government is able to respond to queries, complaints, and decisions in decision-making. And active and adequate information provision stresses the need for a proactive, transparent approach, timely responses, acknowledgements, and interim updates to the public. And lastly, the Ombudsman issued 96 recommendations in 2024, the Ombudsman strongly encourages all government entities to implement the issued recommendations as these strengthen good governance, reduce recurring complaints, and foster greater accountability and public trust. I thank you, Madam Chair. I now hand over the mic back to the Ombudsman.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cecilia, for that elucidation and some insights into where things are right now in terms of complaints, etc., and the handling of those. Ms. Mossel, I now give you the opportunity again for some remarks, further remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will just continue with an overview of our budget and continue on with the future of the Ombudsman. You can see our budget, the general ledger, 1.4 million, capital ledger, 90,000, total unspent, 136,000. I would like to note that the unspent amount includes the capital ledger, which was not used. Therefore, the capital unspent portion of the general ledger, the regular budget, is actually 46,000. So 97% of the 2024 budget was spent. Next slide. This slide provides an overview of the budget from the Ombudsman from 2011 until 2024 in terms of what was budgeted versus what was actually spent. The Ombudsman has an average utilization percentage of 90%, meaning that we, on average, utilize 90% of our annual budget. The following slide gives an overview of the operational and personal expenses. 65% of the budget was utilized for personnel and 35% for operational expenses. This is more or less the same each year. Proposed amendments, future plans. During this year, the year 2024, the Bureau finalized the draft amendments to the National Ordinance Ombudsman. The proposed amendments aim to enhance the functioning of the Ombudsman institution, with a major highlight being the introduction of a Children's Ombudsman. In addition to the introduction of the Children's Ombudsman, the amendments seek to expand the Ombudsman role to include investigations into complaints from government-owned entities such as GB. As many will undoubtedly recall, the country experienced continuous electricity outages and load shedding during the second half of 2024, resulting in considerable public dissatisfaction. This expansion is essential for ensuring accountability and addressing citizens' concerns regarding these critical services. As planned, the proposed amendments were submitted for legal review to the Department of Legal Affairs and Legislation, YESET and WAY, through the Prime Minister in the first quarter of this year, of 2025. And I am happy to say that the Prime Minister responded positively, stating that the proposal is an important step toward stronger governance and better protection of citizens, especially children. He also welcomed the expanded oversight of key government entities, noting that it supports the government's goal of greater transparency, accountability, and fairness for all. The Ombudsman also counts on the support from Parliament. This will, of course, have effect on our formation plan. Our present formation is 6 persons, including myself, the Ombudsman, the Secretary General, legal advisor, 2 investigators, and an administrator. And the proposed formation plan will be, and the Children's Ombudsman will be added, another legal advisor will be added, and a communication specialist will be added to the formation. It must also be noted that the change for formation will include an adjustment of the salary scales. The salary scales have remained the same since the inception of the Bureau and must be revisited. This process is presently being finalized, and the Ombudsman's budget will have to be increased accordingly. In closing, Madam Chair, the Ombudsman is not only a defender of rights, but also a pillar of democratic legitimacy. The growing loss of trust in politics and public officials is one of the greatest challenges to modern democracy, underscoring the vital role of the Ombudsman and other oversight institutions. Independent oversight helps improve administrative efficiency and fairness by upholding the principles of legality, impartiality, and participation. Ombudsman institutions help restore public trust and strengthen democratic values, especially in times when these values are under pressure. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you once again, Ms. Mussel, for those additional comments and remarks on the Ombudsman future plans and information from the Office of the Ombudsman. Members of Parliament, you now have the opportunity to ask any question regarding the presentation that has been made by the Ombudsman's office and or anything regarding the annual report that we have received. I do see that we have a member to speak, and I invite MP Lewis to take the floor. MP Lewis.
Special good morning, Madam Chair, Griffier, to the Ombudsman and her legal advisor, and also to my colleagues here in the Tribune. Good morning, St. Martin. I don't have questions. I want to say thank you for your report, and personally, congratulations again on your reappointment as Ombudsman. I do appreciate the service that you're giving to St. Martin, and like I just told my colleagues, you are working, okay? As a politician, as an individual that represents this country, it is very important when we get your report, because when we sit here and we do requests for meetings with ministers pertaining to their respective ministries, some may think that it's we're just here grandstanding. So I'm hoping that the people of St. Martin has taken note of your report, because there are 3 key components that were mentioned with regards to VROMI.
MP Lewis, sorry, I invite you to direct your
Madam
statement.
Chair, to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Your report outlined exactly the complaints I personally get from the general public out there. And some will say, oh, because you're not minister anymore, or because you're not in the executive branch. The people need to understand that there are people hurting in this country. And especially when it comes to the immigration processes, the procedures at immigration, the backlog is crazy. And my colleague just asked me, how can we as Parliament, MP Arian, Madam Chair, ask the question, how can we curb it? How can we approach the minister on this matter? It's all about putting confidence in your team. It's all about forming a team that is willing to work on behalf of this country. We do have a lot of colleagues that are demotivated because of their salaries, etc. They're not getting their proper appointments. And those things also does not allow them to give the proper service that the people of this country needs. However, this beautiful government is turning 1 year on the 26th of November. And then they're going to see a different side of MP Lewis, because now what do you have to say? At this moment, we have the batching system where we have to deliver to these employees. The minister has not initiated one batch of her own, which is supposed to be batch 14, within 12 months or to a year. And the employees are still eagerly waiting. But promises was met was given on Justice Day. And I hope that the 31st of December comes and we really deliver, because in 6 months and 6 weeks, I delivered 7 batches. But this minister has not delivered one. Yes, she signed off 2 of my batches, but not one have been given. So I'm saying I would like to know where our priority lies. When it comes to Vromi as well, we will be asking for a meeting soon to the Minister of Vromi, because there's too much complaints. And today again, because my colleagues know that we are going to request a meeting, he just asked me, where is the meeting request? Because again, it's about these things with these permits. There's a lot of backlog within the ministry where the people of this country actually need what they want to request. At least give an answer. We are not getting any answer. We do not know what is why is it stagnated within the ministry. The ministers have to come here and state, listen, this is going on in my ministry and I can't deal with it. But if you can't deal with it, then you have to do the honorable thing. And I think who can't bring forth fruit? If a tree don't bring forth fruit in my yard, I cutting it down. It has to be on. I ain't planting no tree in my yard that ain't giving me nothing out of it. You're just creating corrosion and unnecessary bush. And I'm finding that it's very sad how this government is going at this moment, because I see a lot of signing, I see a lot of ribbons cutting, I've seen a lot of pictures, a lot of beautiful things, but I'm not seeing the people of this country progressing. So through you, Madam Chair, I am very happy that I got this report, that tomorrow when a meeting is convened on the respective topics, that report suffice. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Lewis, for your comments. I now give the floor to MP Lacruz. MP Lacruz, you have the floor.
A blessed morning, Madam Chair Lady Grifir, my fellow colleagues, Honorable Ombudsman and her support staff, Ms. Cecilia. Madam Chair Lady, through you, I was wondering what am I to understand under Children's Ombudsman? So how do I, place that? What is exactly the objective of that? I realized in the budget that every time the budget was not used, so I'm to assume, through you, Madam Chair Lady, that the projects that are now coming in place, you are going to be able to, or you're going to use the budget that is allocated to yourself, or is this a plea to increase the budget of the Ombudsman? That is a question. And I will echo the sentiments of my fellow colleague, MP Lewis. Out of all of the high councils, if I look around, and I'm more satisfied with the services that the Ombudsman has delivered to the country. The reports, good job. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Lacruz. The next MP to speak is MP Roseburg. MP Roseburg, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Blessed morning, Secretary General, my honorable colleagues, and of course, the Ombudsman, and also Mevrouw Cecilia. Happy to see 2 strong, powerful ladies in front of me. First of all, also congratulations once more, Mevrouw Mossel, for the reappointment. I was a little delayed, so I'm not sure if all my questions that I have were already answered, but for the sake of transparency and clarity, I will ask my questions. First of all, I'm happy to see that there will be in the future a kinder ombudsman. My colleague MP Lacruz asked what that should entail, but seeing that I have also seen it, for example, in the Netherlands and also Seba and Stacia, I think it's very important for us also to have a kinder ombudsman that will be focused on making sure that the rights of the kids on St. Martin are protected, also as laid out on the UN Convention on the Rights of the Children. Other than that, also, for example, how the government, the schools, the other institutions treat our children, giving that also the children should have a voice. So I'm very curious and excited to see how that will be developed. So how I see it, but of course, it can be more clarified through you, Madam Chair, that the Children's Ombudsman ensures that the children are treated fairly and that also their rights are respected. That being said, often it's being asked, okay, why is there an ombudsman? And I'm happy to see that the ombudsman is very vocal and also here today in Parliament to explain the public as well, why is it so important and why is it also important to come forward when there are complaints and what the role of the ombudsman is to make also sure that complaints about the government are being heard and that the government is also being held accountable for good governance, transparency, respect, decency, etc. And I'm happy that's why also to see the recommendations and also the report that has been presented to us today. That being said, Madam Chair, I have the following questions. First question, how has the frequent change of the past governments affected the Ombudsman's ability to ensure that recommendations are implemented and that ministries follow through on these recommendations and also the investigations? Based on what I have seen in the presentation, it seems that VROMI continues to record the highest number of complaints since 2019. What concrete steps does the Ombudsman recommend to structurally reform the ministry's service, delivery, and enforcement functions? Has the Ministry of Romi taken any action to implement the Ombudsman's April 2024 recommendations regarding the garage disturbance case, and what follow-up has your office received since then? Given the ongoing lack of policy response to the DDAM and over the bank rulings, what risk does this pose for public trust and land allocation, transparency, and what action should Parliament take if there's any action seen from the side of the Ombudsman? It was identified by the Ombudsman through you, Madam Chair, that enforcement breakdowns across VROMI, TEAT, and Justice, that there's enforcement breakdowns. What coordination mechanism does the Ombudsman recommend to ensure enforcement and communication between these ministries? Regarding the case mentioned in the report involving an inmate of the House of Detention, what measures does the Ombudsman recommend to ensure that verdicts affecting individual rights are executed in a timely and lawful manner by the relevant authorities? It was also noted that KPSM's online complaint system was inactive for the entire year. What is the recommendation of the Ombudsman to make complaint processes more accessible and transparent to the public? When ministries fail to respond or act on Ombudsman's recommendation, what enforcement or escalation tools are available to ensure the accountability? My last question, I'm seeing I'm going a little fast, but I can provide them as well in writing. I have them in writing because I don't want to make you guys write too fast and that maybe a question is being missed. If I had it correct, no laws were referred to the Constitutional Court in 2024. Does the Ombudsman consider this a sign of improved legislative quality or an utilization of the court's constitutional review function? Because it's very nice to see that we have a constitutional court, but do you all believe, through you, Madam Chair, that we are making use of this constitutional court? So those are my questions. And once again, maybe some of those questions were answered, but I don't want them to be missed, seeing the importance of this matter. And once more, thank you for your work and thank you for bringing the awareness of the importance of Ombudsman. And I'm looking forward to see a Kinder Ombudsman on St. Martin. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Roseburg. I now give the floor to MP Waver. MP Waver, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Griffier, Honorable Ombudsman, support staff, Ms. Cecilia, and my honorable colleagues here today in the House of Parliament. First of all, also congratulations to the Ombudsman. I think it shows the commitment that you have shown towards the country and serving the country in your capacity. Thank you also for the elaborate report. I think it's very informative, and it's good to see that the people are actually looking towards the Ombudsman for assistance and entrust the Ombudsman. So I think when we see the amounts of complaints over the years, it also is because they are aware of what the Ombudsman does, and they entrust the service of the Ombudsman. So when we see an increase in 2019 as well within certain ministries, my question would be, and if this was already answered, maybe to go over it again, but is there, since 2019, I know the top ministry was Romy, where we saw an increase. Is there fluctuation within that over the years? Or has it peaked at a certain year and then you see it kind of go down? Or is it consistently still going up? And are we also seeing a specific, maybe it's not one of the highest, but maybe there's another ministry that all of a sudden showed a peak. Maybe it's not as much as Romy, but over the past years, if we see, okay, it has been kind of dormant, the complaints within this ministry, but all of a sudden we're seeing an increase within this ministry, which also shows there's something happening there as well. Yeah, that'd be all for me, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Waver. I see MP Veronica Janssen requesting the floor. MP Janssen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Good morning. Good morning to my colleagues and the Griffier, and good morning and welcome to our Ombudsman and her legal assistant, Mevrouw Cecilia. I don't really have a question either, but I wanted to remark on what Ms. Cecilia explained about the timely assistance, especially in the policy departments, because I know what that is, and you see it happening, and the departments, like you all mentioned, complain about being understaffed, but to me, there are certain processes that can be put in place, and especially now with the introduction of the digital government, you will hope that maybe somehow things might go faster, because it's not only policy departments. I think that in AZ, you see it also with the civil registry. You see it in justice with asking for a police record that takes a month for someone who is upstanding citizen who has never been involved with the law anywhere, anyhow, that it takes a month for you to get a police record. So also just requesting a passport. Sometimes you need to travel and oops, your passport is finished, expired, and they tell you in 3 months. So stuff like that. So you see the length of time that our citizens need to get through in government. And one thing, this might be a question because I am not sure if there is a place in the Ombudsman where you can complain about customer service. Because when you go to these front desk areas in government, sometimes people are really not treated nice. And I sat in the hospital on Monday, and the people around me were talking about customer service in St. Martin in general, but in particular in government, they said it's like you're begging people a favor, whereas it's a service that you want. So customer service, is that something that people can complain to the Ombudsman about as well, or is it just the administration? And with customer service, how can you prove, that the service was bad? Then regarding pay, me and my colleague, we had to laugh because it affects even us, because we were former civil servants. And we have something pending in there over a year. I mean, and it even went through it was approved, but you just can't get it out. And you hear things like coming from P&O, like, oh, the more she asks for it, the longer we're going to keep it. That kind of an attitude. And I told the government, I am in coalition, but I told the government, if this continues, I will go to the Ombudsman, because it has been more than a year. And you cannot, we cannot continue waiting, and when you know that people are maliciously saying things, you know, they are willfully holding it back. And this happens to regular civil servants. I am okay, but there are people who are depending on getting their how you call that, whatever they need in writing, they need to get it. You're not getting their baslight, you're not getting your baslight, you're not getting whatever is due to you, and people don't realize how important it is. I think more it's maybe a retraining, because when I was a civil servant, I know we had different trainings. We had trainings so that you sensitize people to the real reason and what it means to serve. You're a civil servant, and if you don't have serving in you, then maybe you should find a different job and not come and say you're coming to serve the public. But we had training in those things. And with the finance, you touch so many of the things that people are complaining to me about, with finance, with the taxes. What the complaints that I am getting, people are saying, I've been making the same amount of money. I don't even get an increase, but I've been making the same amount of money. I've been filing the same amount for my taxes all the time. Why now I have to pay more, or I'm getting these heavy assessments? People are seeing an increase in assessments that they are getting, and there's a feeling out there that the taxes that they are being assessed for, it's unfair. Something shifted, and we weren't informed. A lot of people are complaining about that. They said, what changed? I didn't change anything. Why this? I used to get back money, and now I'm being assessed. That's what people are saying. So it warrants some looking into. And the VROMI permits, yeah, we are hearing it. You can't walk on the road without people coming up to you. And also, what was mentioned earlier, because of the DDAM, people have requests in for land. They're not hearing anything. Nothing is moving. So those things, y'all hit the nail on the head, and I congratulate Ms. Mussel, my former school colleague, schoolmate. I congratulate you and your office on the work that you all are doing, and look forward to seeing a lot more from you all. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Janssen. I now give the floor to MP Iran. MP Iran, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Khifir, members of Parliament, the Ombudsman and her support staff, and I want to also congratulate you again on your reappointment, your unanimous, actually, reappointment. I'll also start with thanking you for the work that you have done, the team, and I say you, the team, to you, Madam Chair. And I was even thinking about it. I said, you know, the body of the Ombudsman, I look at almost, let's say, I could compare them to like psychologists, right, or therapists. And why? Because, and also therapists or psychologists, friends of mine, even my aunt, who's a psychologist in the Netherlands, I asked her once, I said, like, when you have to deal with all these complaints all the time, or like the stress of the other individuals, like how does that affect you personally, right? And she said, you know, she tries her best to leave it like at work after a certain time. But I know that, so I compare the team as psychologists, also similar therapists, because you have to hear these complaints consistently. You have to try to bring solutions. I know when persons come to complain, they're just not talking like, it's not black and white, it's just not, this is my problem, I leave. It's the stress and the family and the money and what he can't get this done, for example. And so you're a therapist basically also. And I know that the team, I've been in other environments and where topics would come up, and members of your team would talk about the issues even at other events. So again, I understand that the importance of the job. And you mentioned that complaints were less because of, let's say, there was political hesitancy because of the election. But that would also mean that there's a sort of a lack of trust in elected officials across the board, because we shouldn't, citizens shouldn't feel scared to come to the Ombudsman because of who is in power, right? So that says something a lot too, that because it's a political shift, we're not going to go until the government sits. So that says that we have to do something as members of parliament, as politicians also, to ensure that across the board, no matter who sits there, that there is safety in terms of going to the Ombudsman. But I've also had some individuals, because I would recommend people to say, you have this issue, go to the Ombudsman, have you gone to the Ombudsman? And they would say, yes, I've gone, but nothing has happened or nothing got done. And that could be for various reasons. But I think that's also because they maybe don't understand what the role of the Ombudsman may be. Yes, I think you have more complaints, but maybe they don't understand how far your jurisdiction is, what you can get done. So what I would ask also is to maybe even, because I've seen campaigns before on reports, but maybe more campaigns on what the role of Ombudsman is, and try to get it down to more the everyday man. Persons that don't have the opportunity to listen to these meetings because they're working, persons that don't tune into Parliament. How can you get the message down to the everyday man of the role of the Ombudsman to meet them where they're at, all right? Similar to how we do these town hall meetings in different neighborhoods. And I listen to some of my colleagues, and I differ a little bit on the position of asking the Ombudsman questions or just congratulating you. Because at the end of the day, we have this annual report. What are we going to do with this annual report, right? We're members of Parliament. And I'm happy because I also felt the pain of paying no, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm happy that we feel the pain, but what are we going to do with the pain that we feel, all right? So out of this report, because we have this report, we're gonna have the audit chamber, we're gonna have the Ombudsman, we're gonna have the SER, et cetera, but what are we doing as a body of Parliament, right? So I don't see meetings being called. So we have this report, right? We all read the report, but there's no meetings, nobody calling the Prime Minister with paying no. Right? Nobody calling justice on the portal, right? Nobody asking for any updates, and we can see it's a fact, right? Look at the letters going out to the ministers, right? We had a meeting, the update a couple of weeks ago. How much MPs are actually questioning the ministers on these updates? So are we doing our job when we get these reports? I don't know. So what I want out of this meeting is we actually have action points. So as a body of a parliament, right? We have the report. Can we establish as a body, and maybe the other MPs could agree or not? These are my points that I would like to see go out as action points, but also questions posed to the government out of this committee. So one, can we get a kind of timeline be provided on the draft policy concerning the data arrest? Can we get a timeline on that? Can we get including the zoning plan? Can we get an update on the fine book? Can we get an explanation for the backlog at domain affairs and why? And we know the staffing issue, so what is the government going to do to resolve the staffing issue? MP Roseberg mentioned the KPSM portal hasn't been online for a year. My question is, when will it be online? So when can the portal be online? Can we get an update on that? What is the issues with it not being online? Can we get an update on the complaints handling committee? And then I would like us as a parliament to decide if we're going to now apply a little bit more pressure. So can we require the Ministry of Rami to say, hey, we would like within the next 60 days to get the policy book? or let them tell us how much time they need, then we can hold them accountable on that. In terms of responses to the Ombudsman, and I was a minister also, and when I came in, also finance also had, let's say, similar issues in terms of responding to the Ombudsman. And I would say that the team, we try our best to respond to improve, right, the responses. Now, yes, sometimes we did have a disagreement with the Ombudsman in terms of maybe the quality of our responses, right? And that could be subjective. But at least the responses improved. And I think that's important, because I think sometimes persons just want to know that I am heard, right? That's also important. I am heard. Somebody on the other line heard me. Never had that a lot before. And then when they get a response, it's like, okay, I can understand this, but I don't agree with this. Then we can have a better discussion. Never had that before also. So not just not just sitting here and asking the Ombudsman questions, because at the end of the day, this report says the Ombudsman is doing their job, deal with complaints. Their job is not to go and fix the government issues. Our job is to hold the government accountable and ensure that the complaints that we see in this report are addressed. So I'm not going to ask you questions. I'm going to ask the government questions, because I want them to answer. Your questions are complaints by the people, right? Every complaint that we have inside here means somebody is hurting. Somebody is sad, somebody is depressed. That's what that says to me. That's all that says. Now, we as a body of parliament, we have to now go and talk to the government and say, hey, this is the annual report, these are complaints, why is this happening? Can we address this? What do you need from us? The Ombudsman mentioned, Madam Chair, so I do have a couple of questions, but that's related directly to the Ombudsman body in terms of the Children's Ombudsman. Is that legislation done? So is it done? So you did mention that, yes, you have the support of the Prime Minister. Yes, okay. But what do you need from government to have it executed or fast-tracked? So is there current legislation done? Does the government need to do this? Will you do this? In terms of the formation plan for the Ombudsman, is that also done? So the functional book, basically, is the functional book done? Is a budget aligned with the functional book? Has that been submitted to government? Can Parliament get a copy? Why? Because we don't even have the budget 2025 yet, all right, amendment. So basically the budget, and I don't even know when we can get that. So the government basically for the last 6 months has been executing almost illegally, because they haven't gotten approval from us to be able to execute what they have to execute, all right? So if we get this function book, it has been submitted to the government, we can now hold government accountable and say, hey, we don't see this in your budget for 2026 or budget amendment 2025. So can we get a copy of this and the financials with it? No, there was a comment made about all of these high councils and bodies in terms of our budget and our capacity to be able to handle them. That was by the Prime Minister. Right? We have all these bodies out there. Do you think that we have too many bodies doing the same thing? And in particular for the Ombudsman, I know this was a topic a couple of years ago between 2018 and 2019, the integrity chamber in the Ombudsman. When I compare the integrity chamber and the Ombudsman and look at the reports done by the Ombudsman, the amount of work that you have done versus the amount of work at the integrity chamber, I have to now consider, are we getting enough out of the other bodies, right? Or are we seeing overlapping work? Or can the Ombudsman execute certain things that the integrity chamber is doing with maybe expanded roles via legislation? Because I don't feel like we have to be doubling up on budget. There's over maybe 2 million guilders, whereas you guys are, sorry, through Madam Chair, the Ombudsman is already at 97% executing. That's very good, right? To say your budget is X and you're at 97% execution of your budget, that's good. So my other question would be, if we had to increase your budget, right, what areas of improvements can you have, or efficiency? So is it more digital? Is it more dealing with investigation? So if we say, listen, you're so on par with your budget, maybe, and I believe in data, right? If we're getting 400, let's say, complaints handled with 1.4 million guilders, then if we increase it to, let's say we remove the staffing, so that's the existing staff is about 800,000 guilders. If we increase the other portion by 30%, will we then see a 30% more increase in X? Right? So that's what I want to know. If we increase the material budget by 20%, what kind of improvements will be or can we see in the Ombudsman? Or what areas can we support you with that? In the report mentioned businesses, so garages being in neighborhoods. I think that's another issue. Even when I was there in Acton from me, I went out to tea at once, and I saw that issue. And I think that these are very simple issues to solve if we come out of silos, right? And I said it then when I was a minister, and I still say it now. If you give a business license, right, all you have to say is you can't get a business license unless you have the hindrance permit for it. That's it. If I get a license to operate, I'll operate. So I can't blame the businesses. I have the license. If you don't want the person to operate or you want to ensure that the hindrance is not a problem, then attach for certain businesses, a hindrance permit has to be given simultaneously with the business license. That's a simple issue. All right? So this is another question that I guess I want to add to the agenda. Can we have ask the ministries, Tiat, Rami, to have those hindrance permits attached to the business license? And then P&O, it was also stated about unhappy, I say customer service. I have experience also in my own ministry at times, but I also think that customer service is also aligned to how individuals are being treated, right? Some customer service, I wouldn't say all, but some customer service is a reflection of how the employees are being treated, right? They are not happy at work, they are not happy with how they're being treated. So I guess I agree, going back to pay, and it's not all, right? But I think that's one of the most consistent issues since we got this status, right? Or maybe even prior. And I remember one time we had a meeting with SRB, and SRB said if you solve pay-no issues, you will solve over 70% of all government issues. So solving pay-no would have solved 70% of all our government issues. So I think that's definitely a key area where we have to call in the Prime Minister, right, and deal with that matter of pay-no, because we all feel it. We're still feeling it. Persons are still dealing with issues of pay-no from 5, 10 years ago, still today. So again, as a parliament, I don't want to sit down here and ask you questions. I want us to execute now. And then again, I think maybe we could get a SLA done between Parliament, government, Ombudsman in terms of a timeline and responses. So something goes to government, it can't be that 90 days, 120 days, everybody doing their own time in terms of how and when they want to respond. I think once we have that tightened up, we'll see a lot more coming out of the ministries. Madam Chair, that will be all for me, and I thank you.
Thank you, MP Irian. I take note of the fact that we also have MP Roseburg, who wish to maybe ask one more question, because I have some comments to make, but let me allow you to make your comment or question. MP Roseburg.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Yes, I just wanted to also mention, my colleague MP Irian mentioned a few points in regards to the accountability, but I do have to disagree with him a bit in the sense of that both parties, being the Ombudsman and also members of Parliament, have the role of accountability, maybe in a different way, but I do believe the Ombudsman has been there to hold the government accountable. But maybe it was mentioned in a different way, how my colleague referred to it. But what I would like to know in regards to the accountability part, Chair Lady, a lot was said in the report. A lot needs to be done, but seeing that we as members of parliament indeed have the role in holding the government accountable, what does the ombudsman recommend if they can bring out 3 pointers or 5 pointers, like this is where we believe that the urgency should be on the side of parliament? That's what I would like to add to my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MP Roseberg, and kind of tying into your question as well as the many comments regarding the way forward from MP Irian, I want to propose the following. But before proposing, I want to explain that the Ombudsman has presented her annual report like she always does. The intention behind that from Parliament's side is that the first step in that respect is to bring in the Ombudsman so that if the need is there, the Ombudsman can explain anything regarding their report. That's the first step. However, given what is stated in the report and the responsibility of Parliament / the members of Parliament, then we can decide with that information from the Ombudsman and the report, one, members of Parliament can directly pose questions to the government. Secondly, we can handle this report and from that deduce certain questions for then Parliament as a body central committee or otherwise to present to the government. And that's exactly the way we are going to handle this report. We have received report and elucidated by the Ombudsman Office. Now we have also heard some additional questions. So when I finish with a statement, then I'll ask the Ombudsman how much time she would like to have. So that's definitely not today, but in your mind, how much time to prepare for the answers to the questions as posed in this meeting. With your hopefully written answer, which is answers, which I would recommend, we will then convene another meeting of Parliament with report and answers to then make up the list of questions. MP Irian has already put some forward that are actually for the government. So it's not to go through the process here today, but rather discuss the report maybe chapter by chapter with the answers that we get today's meeting, and based on that we can call in more than one minister, we can call in one minister at a time, whatever the case may be. That is for Parliament to decide. That's the way we're going to continue with this report. So with that, I now ask from the Ombudsman side, hearing the questions that regard you, Ombudsman, and your office, what time, how many days, I hope you can speak in days, would you need in order to present, and I would then suggest to the members of Parliament, written answers to the questions posed directly regarding the Ombudsman and her report. Ombudsman Mossel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And indeed, before answering your question, I would like to say that you actually hit the nail on the head. And what I was about to propose and say regarding all that was said by MP Irian and MP Roseberg regarding, how to deal with the follow-ups and the accountability. I believe that it is important, and what I had here is that I would like to ask Parliament to seriously consider to put a committee, especially in place for the Ombudsman and maybe also for the other oversight committees, just to look at, like you said, our reports, our recommendations, and make sure to act upon it. The Ombudsman, we are here to assist Parliament. We investigate and we bring the outcome, so to speak. And we expect, and the people expect, for Parliament to do the follow-up on the recommendations. And that is the most important part and aspect. And to really take it serious, I think you all have a lot of committees. Maybe you can add another committee to follow up on our investigations and really look for answers. Accountability is key, not only with the minister, but through the whole ministry. Accountability is important. Heads of departments, policy workers, everyone has to be held accountable in order for us to get fruitful results. So that is one that I agree with and would ask maybe a suggestion to have a special committee for that. Then I would like to just answer the question on the Children's Ombudsman. And then the other questions, I guess we will answer them in writing by Tuesday.
Oh, that would be great.
It's
Thank
fine,
you. Okay.
yes? Okay, and then so the question from MP La Cruz, he wanted to know what exactly is the Children's Ombudsman, or why is it necessary? A Children's Ombudsman is an independent officer appointed to defend and promote the rights of children. They are not limited to government, as the Ombudsman is. They monitor all types of organizations once it relates to children. They serve as a voice for children and ensure their rights are protected. They address issues like abuse, neglect, denied access to education, etc. For example, we received a complaint from regarding a daycare. I'm sure you all remember that, where a child stepped out of the daycare and ended up walking alongside the road, and nobody noticed that. The mother approached the office and asked to investigate this daycare, but the Ombudsman doesn't have the authority to investigate a daycare. A children's ombudsman would. And so what we did is just refer them to the inspection, the inspectorate, who then oversees and has to make sure that the daycare is following has the right facility, etc., and protection for these children. So that is the difference between just the ombudsman and the children's ombudsman. I hope that answers your questions. Yes?
Quickly, please, MP Iram, because of course you realize we're looking at another meeting, a public meeting that needed to start at 11:30. So quickly, a quick response, and then let me wrap this up.
In terms of the children's ombudsman, is the reason for this, let's say, backed by data? So we have a lot of children complaints. That's why we thought was important, or just want to be clarified.
It is actually based on the Convention of the United Nations, where actually we as a country have to have an institution in place where
Protecting the rights of
children
the
can
child,
come
yep.
and file their complaint, and where that body can investigate. And the update on the update on our amended law that we submitted. We already received feedback from Yesat and Wei, which was very good, very positive. We responded back. So right now we are awaiting. I've requested the SG from General Affairs to ask what the next step is. So hopefully, by next year that it should be further along.
Thank you, Ombudsman Mossel, and I would want to suggest that although you gave the verbal answers regarding the Children's Ombudsman, in your written answers to Parliament, could you just put a little paragraph on that as well, that we can have it in our documentation? So, and I will also take along in the next steps regarding dealing in how to look with your report as Parliament, the matter pertaining how do we then sustainably continue dealing with these reports from the High Council. So I'll think further about that. You are right, we have many committees already. We have spoken about, and it's the way I feel about the committees of Parliament, they should be made much more thematic, so topical. So rather than them being attached to a ministry like most of our committees are right now, we believe there are issues that warrant a committee. So you're going to be seeing a shift from the ministerial aligned committees to more topical ones. And, you know, so that the very critical topics, health on its own, you know, those kind of things, that they can then get focused attention by Parliament. So in that light, I would look at your proposal for a committee as we continue along. But I want to thank both of you, Ombudsman Mossel, Ms. Cecilia. I want to thank the members of Parliament. We are going to close this central committee, and the steps that I just outlined, we will proceed with them. We have understood that by Tuesday, Wednesday, we will have the responses from the Ombudsman, which then together with the report itself, we will analyze one more time and see where the specific concerns of Parliament and further questions to ministries can then be formulated and sent to the government, and then we will continue to monitor those answers as per the suggestion of the Ombudsman in terms of however we handle it, but there must be some kind of sustainability. So I want to thank both of you again, members of Parliament. I want to thank you, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your viewing of this meeting in as far as you were, our support staff, and this meeting of Parliament is hereby closed. Meeting closed.